All right, so this is the second of the command line basics videos, and now we're going to continue talking about how to move around the directory structure of Linux. And first, let's talk about what the directory structure is. So, it's exactly the same as Windows, where you have a series of folders within folders for organizing files. If you think about it, a computer can have data anywhere. You can store it over here, but it doesn't matter to the computer. But human beings need some way to find what we're looking for, some way to organize things. The way that we've traditionally done that is through file systems and through folders. So if I'm going to open up the File Explorer again, and if I go to Home, underneath the Home directory for the root user is the desktop, and I go into the desktop, and then there's nothing there. So maybe I will right-click and create a new folder, and I'll call this new folder Pictures, and I'll right-click and create a new folder and call this My Documents, right? So it's starting to look kind of like a Windows machine, right? And if I click up here, if you look at this top path up here, you can see we go from the root of the device to the home to the desktop to find these two folders. If I open up a terminal and I type ls for list, again, list the contents of a directory, we see desktop. I'm going to do cd to change directory into it and type ls, and we see my two folders there, Pictures and My Documents. So it's the same information. They're just a way of organizing all the files that we're going to put into them. If I want to see what's inside the contents of a directory, I can type ls./pictures. And there's nothing in there because we didn't put anything in there yet. So when I do that, it's empty. Let me go back to my File Explorer. Let me go back into Pictures, and I'm going to create a new document, and I'll just create an empty document called junk, right? And I'll go back to desktop up there. I will return to the Linux command prompt and type ls pictures again, and it shows me junk now exists inside that folder. Now, I can also get that information if I type in ls/root /desktop/pictures. It points to the same directory. Now, this is a very important concept that we want to get across to you for Linux. There are two different types of paths. There's a relative path and a full path. The relative path goes from your present working directory. If I type in pwd, it shows you my present working directory is /root/desktop. Up here, I indicated that with the dot. By the way, in some versions of Linux, you don't have to put the dot. We're always going to put the dot just to be consistent. So when I do dot, I mean whatever the rest of the path is to a folder, to a file, to whatever, start from here. If I start with a slash, like I did on the second command, /root/desktop/pictures, that means start from the beginning of the file system. That's a full path. So two different types of paths. Relative path means from the current working directory. The full path means from the beginning of the file system. In Windows, to kind of show you the equivalent, Windows starts with like // That's the root of the Windows device. In Linux, everything starts from /. So Linux is set up a little bit differently. But it's the same idea. You got to start from somewhere. There's always some root directory. In Linux, we call it root. We indicate it with a /. Okay? And the ls command, again, means list the contents of this directory, and it will list that for me. Now, if I do ls./my documents, notice it tells me no such file or directory. That's because Linux, unlike Windows, does not like spaces, right? So for Linux, if I have a directory or a file that has a space in the name, I need to do ls./my, and then I have to escape the space. So I have to put a backslash space documents, and it tells me it's empty because there's nothing in it yet. Let me go back and go to my documents, and I will create a new document there, and I'll call this one stuff. So now when I run that command again, we see that stuff is inside my document. It's really a pain to try and keep track of all these very long names and to correctly type them, particularly when you have a lot of spaces and you got to, escape each space. It's a nightmare. Because of that, Linux has a really great feature in their shell prompt called Autocomplete. And listen to me right now. This is the number one thing. I'm banging on my desk because I'm trying to emphasize how important this is. It's the number one thing that students could be doing to make their lives easier that they don't. They never use it, and it's implemented in every version of Linux. I'm going to type in ls./M, and you can't see what I'm typing, but I'm just going to press tab, and it finished it for me. So I don't have to type out the full name. I just need to type out enough for the command prompt to figure out what I mean and hit tab, and it'll find it for me. Autocomplete, it is life-changing, right? Autocomplete is life-changing. And we see that there's stuff in there. I can also do cd into, and I'm going to do /my, hit tab, and now we see that my command prompt says I am now inside my documents, and if I type in pwd, it'll show you the full path into where I currently am. So, a couple of important things that we've gone over so far. Autocomplete, full paths, relative paths. Those are very important. A few other things I want you to notice. Notice in my command prompt, it doesn't show me /root. In my command prompt, it gives me tilde. Remember, tilde is a special symbol that means my home directory. And I can also type in cd space tilde, and if I type in pwd, that is my home directory, which is /root. I can also type in, here's another very useful Linux tool, echo. Right? If I type in echo and then give it any sentence, hi there, Jim, echo just spits it out at me. If I do echo tilde, it figures out what that symbol means. And there are a few other variables that we're going to go through in this class that will come up that you might want to check. The easiest way to check them is with echo. Another very important one is path. And path means whenever I run a command, what are the different directories it looks in to kind of see what command I want to run. So I can check that with echo path. Right? If you ever want, and we'll get into variables later on in this course. Okay, so one last example to kind of highlight paths and directories and to illustrate how to use autocomplete. Follow along with me. I'm going to type in cd /, which is the root of everything, the uppermost directory, and I'm going to type in etc. I typed in et and hit tab, and it completed it for me. And then I'm going to type in b and hit tab, and it doesn't do anything because there are lots of different directories that start with B. So there are too many options. But if I hit tab twice, then it shows me all the different possibilities that start with a B. Bash completion.d, beef-xss, that sounds interesting. Blue Maho, Bluetooth, Bonobo activation. Let's start with BON, right, and hit tab, and it completes Bonobo activation. And then, again, I'll hit tab twice, and it doesn't show me anything. Oh, because in Bonobo activation, there are no other directories, so there's nowhere else that I could possibly change directory to. If I want to go back to my home directory from here, I will type in cd tilde, and I go back to my home directory. Everybody with me at this point? two more special symbols that you have to be aware of in Linux. If I do echo dot, oh, it just shows me a dot. Echo doesn't work with that apparently. But if I do ls dot, dot means my present working directory. So if I do pwd, if I do /root, if I do ls/root, I should get the same result. So dot means whatever directory I'm in right now, dot refers to it. And that's why before I was typing in ./desktop and then whatever my path was for my relative path. So dot means from my current directory. There's another special symbol, dot dot. Dot dot means one directory above me, my parent directory. Since my present working directory is /root, as we can see here, dot dot refers to /, which is the highest directory, and that is the contents of the highest directory that you're seeing shown there. So dot, my present working directory, dot dot, the directory one above me. Those are the Linux basics. Again, just like all of our other little modules here, you're going to have a quick test and a few activities to kind of demonstrate what you've learned here. If you have any questions, shoot me an email.